Network and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. All right, so I did a Windows 11 update today, and the computer was acting up. I just had to close out Google Chrome. So, all right, we're on live. Listen to the African History Network show. It's Thursday, December 16th, 2021. We're here broadcasting on 910 a.m. the Superstation, the Future of Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. So we're going to also talk about Jimmy Lee Jackson. When we talk about the Selma to Montgomery March in 1965, which and we deal with Bloody Sunday, March 7th, 1965, Bloody Sunday, with civil rights activists trying to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge, that the impetus of that march was the shooting and killing of Jimmy Lee Jackson, who was a 26-year-old African-American man from Alabama, and he was participating in a civil rights march in February of February 18th, 1965, and he was shot by a Alabama state trooper, and he's going to die some days later. He dies on February 26, 1965. Well, Jimmy Lee Jackson was born December 16th, 1938. December 16th, 1938. Okay, so this is the birth date of Jimmy Lee Jackson. So we're going to talk some about his history. We'll also talk about Anjanette Young. Now, we all remember the viral video, the tragic viral video of this African-American woman, her house being raided by Chicago police officers, and they raided the wrong home. Okay, she was standing there naked for a period of time, and the city council in Chicago is getting ready to vote to award her $2.9 million in damages. $2.9 million in damages. City council is going to vote on this. So we'll talk about this as well, the story here about Anjanette Young. And then we'll talk about Jimmy Lee Jackson as well. Today is Jimmy Lee Jackson's birth date. And originally the march from Selma to Montgomery, what the civil rights activists were going to do is take his coffin and drop it on the door of the state's capital. Montgomery, Alabama, we know is the capital of Alabama. So we'll deal with that story, and we'll talk about Claudette Colvin. So I had been following this story for a few days now, and I saw this piece from CBS News. So I'm going to share this story from CBS this morning. Claudette Colvin, arrested for not giving up her seat for a white woman in 1955, has her record expunged. She finally has her record expunged. Now, many people have heard of Claudette Colvin because she refused to give up her seat on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama, 9 months before Rosa Parks. But what a lot of people, really don't know is that Claudette Colvin was the plaintiff. She was the plaintiff, one of the plaintiffs, in a landmark U.S. Supreme Court case called Browder versus Gale. Browder versus Gale. And this is during the Montgomery bus boycott. The lawsuit was filed February 1st, 1956. And it's the lawsuit of Browder versus Gale. That's what actually ends segregation on the buses in Montgomery, Alabama. Contrary to popular belief and folklore and just blatant misinformation, it was not the Montgomery bus boycott that ended the segregation on the buses. The Montgomery bus boycott was needed, but that is not what ended segregation on the buses in Montgomery, Alabama. What ended segregation on the buses is the lawsuit of Browder versus Gale, and the plaintiffs in the case were Aurelia S. Browder, Mary Louise Smith, Susie McDonald, and Claudette Colvin. And these were all African-American women who refused to give up their seats on buses in Montgomery, Alabama as well. Okay, so it wasn't just Rosa Parks. I know because of this misinformation and bad history, what have you. People like to think it was. Oftentimes with the history, if the history becomes reduced down to um, individuals and becomes reduced down to like civil rights superheroes. Okay. But people like Claudette Colvin are not talked about. Really S. Browder, people like Edie Nixon, who was a past president of the NAACP, um, people like Joanne Robinson, who was the head of the Women's Political Council, and they had been trying to um, uh, they were fighting against segregation on the buses and segregation there in Montgomery, Alabama, before the bus boycott even starts. A lot of this gets left out. The template for the Montgomery bus boycott was the Baton Rouge, Louisiana bus boycott of 1953. The Baton Rouge, Louisiana bus boycott of 1953, led by the Reverend T.J. Jemison. Okay, that becomes the template of the Montgomery bus boycott, and you have Dr. King and E.D. Nixon and others who are calling um, Reverend T.J. Jemison to get advice and guidance on maneuvering and handling the Montgomery bus boycott. Okay, so a lot of times when we deal with this history, unfortunately, this history gets reduced down to individuals as opposed to understanding the movements that give birth to the individuals and support the individuals. Okay, we'll continue this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Stand by, everybody. Share this broadcast on social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. Who still needs to register for the online courses I teach on Saturdays and Sundays? From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. And then also Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understand the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We have a special bundle pack. You can register for both classes for only $70, regularly $130 each. Stand by. Back from break in 3 minutes. Stand by. Everybody doing? One commercial break. Stand by. Back from break in 2 minutes. Stand by. Stand by. Back from break in 1 minute. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Thursday, December 16th, 2021, and we are live. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. If you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization, African American History Month is coming up, Kwanzaa is coming up, Dr. King Day, Women's History Month, Juneteenth, etc. Email me at ahnshow@africanhistorynetwork.com. ahnshow@africanhistorynetwork.com. You can also email me at TheAHNShow@africanhistorynetwork.com, and we can make that happen. We know Kwanzaa is coming up. I have a fantastic presentation on Kwanzaa and the African origins of Kwanzaa. Probably never seen anything like it before unless you've seen my Kwanzaa presentations in the past. And I also incorporate the film Black Panther into my Kwanzaa presentations as well, because we know there are 11 different African cultures represented in the film Black Panther also. And we know the word Wakanda is a Bantu word. And we know that the language spoken in the film Black Panther, isiXhosa, is a Bantu language. And Kiswahili is a Bantu language also. So we know that Kwanzaa is a Kiswahili word and Kwanzaa is a Bantu language as well. Okay, so I connect all of this together in my presentations. All right, now let's see here. Okay, Shakita, I'm about to send this to you, and we're gonna go to clip one from NBC News. All right, so I want to go to this first story here dealing with Anjanette Young. And Anjanette Young is an African American woman who we found out about in 2019. Okay, and it was a tragic story. And we remember the raid on her apartment there in Chicago. NBC News has this piece: Black woman handcuffed naked in a raid at wrong home, set to get $2.9 million from Chicago. Anjanette Young sued the city and several police officers over the 2019 botched raid at her apartment. Now, and this piece is from December 14th from NBC News. Now, the Chicago City Council is set to vote on a $2.9 million settlement for Anjanette Young, an African-American woman who sued the city and several police officers over a botched 2019 raid at her apartment. Now, Anjanette Young is a social worker. She was handcuffed while she was naked. She cried and told officers that they were at the wrong home. Okay. But she remained in handcuffs, according to a report from the civilian civilian office of police accountability. Now, the city's, hold on just a second. Okay, so the city council's finance committee unanimously approved the settlement on Monday. The Chicago Tribune reported. It will move on to the full city council's agenda for a vote on Wednesday. Now, Mayor Lori Lightfoot said she was comfortable with the settlement. The newspaper reported. She said, "I think it is a good thing this matter is resolved," she said. And she said this at an unrelated news conference on Monday. She said this at an unrelated news conference on Monday. And that was Monday, December 13th. Now, the mayor's office and an attorney for Anjanette Young cannot immediately be reached for comment. I want to go to clip number one here. This is from NBC News, and this is about the settlement. Let's go to clip number one, Shakita.
That you have spoken with your Democratic colleagues about this, and point that you were making, that Republicans have
Is that
plighted
clip
their
number
trust
one?
on this, and they shouldn't be let off the hook for that. They should be held
Clip,
to account for it.
hold on. Clip
But
number
when it comes
one.
to acting,
Chicago.
it's never-
Stop. Clip number one. Chicago City Council set to approve $2.9 million settlement. Isn't that clip number one from NBC News?
She was restrained while getting ready for bed and was forced to stand handcuffed and naked as officers searched her residence. It turned out to be the wrong home. Today, Celia Meza, the city's corporation counsel, on why the city is agreeing to a $2.9 million settlement.
She was left in a complete state of undress for 16 seconds after the officers entered. And that it took a full 10 minutes until she was allowed to get fully dressed.
Meza suggests if the case went to trial, a jury might award Young up to $16 million for each second she was completely undressed.
We all saw the way in which she was treated.
At one point, the city requested sanctions against Young for sharing the video of the raid, but then the city backed off, saying they only wanted to sanction Young's attorney. The Finance Committee unanimously agreed to the settlement after some debate.
I believe that we owed her more for the horrible way in which she was treated that day.
Mayor Lightfoot has personally apologized to Anjanette Young.
I think it's a good thing that this matter is resolved. Obviously, assuming city council approval, this will provide her, I think, with a substantial amount of resources. And I think that that's a good thing. It's a good thing for our city. We need to heal from this and move forward.
Okay, so that was from NBC News from December. That is from December 14th. Okay, that's from Tuesday, December 14th. Now, New York Times reported on December 15th, Wednesday, December 15th, Chicago woman who was handcuffed naked receives $2.9 million settlement. The Chicago City Council approved a settlement on Wednesday for Anjanette Young, a medical social worker who was forced to stand naked in front of a dozen police officers in 2019. Now, Chicago City Council approved a $2.9 million settlement on Wednesday. And we know the incident took place in February 2019. Chicago police burst into her apartment to execute a search warrant. The officers handcuffed Anjanette Young on the evening of February 21st, 2019, after they used a battering ram to enter her home. Anjanette Young, who's African American, stood naked for several minutes, screaming at officers, all of them men and most of them white. They had the wrong house. The police, who had been searching for a man with a gun, later learned that the person they were looking for had not lived in the apartment for at least 4 years. The person they were looking for had not lived in the apartment for at least 4 years. The city council voted 48-0 to approve the settlement on Wednesday, December 15th. A spokeswoman said. Now, if we go back to the piece from NBC News, Anjanette Young's first floor apartment was raided after Officer Elaine Aparangayo obtained a search warrant using information from an anonymous source. And I'm going to flip back over here to the piece from NBC News, and this is from the second page of the article from NBC News. Okay, so we have a botched police raid. Look at it, it reminds me of Breonna Taylor. Luckily, Anjanette Young wasn't killed by these police officers, but it reminds me of Breonna Taylor looking for somebody that wasn't there. So the officer obtained a search warrant using information from an anonymous source. The source told Officer Aparangayo, that an acquaintance had brandished an illegal weapon at a home, the report stated. Now, the target of the search warrant, who had been arrested previously, had a home address listed at an apartment building across the street and slightly south of Anjanette Young's apartment. The apartment building across the street. So your dumb ass had the wrong address. Okay. The report didn't say, yo, dumbass, that's me. That's my editorial. All right. The target of the search warrant, who had been arrested previously, had a home address listed at an apartment building across the street and slightly south of Anjanette Young, the report said. It said the officer had information listing the target's address, but, quote, disregarded all of this information and instead relied exclusively on John Doe's statements, end quote. Okay, now I'm not sure that officer has been fired yet or not. Now, neither Anjanette Young nor her home were connected to the target or any criminal activity, the Police Accountability Office said. All right. And let's see here. Body camera video showed officers placing Young under arrest while she was naked. When she asked to see their warrant, she was ignored and was instead questioned about the target. Now, not to make this racial, but I guarantee you, if this was a white woman and they asked to see the warrant, this 9 times out of 10, they would not have treated her like this. If it was a white woman and she asked to see the warrant, 9 times out of 10, they wouldn't have treated her like this. Anjanette Young told police that she did not know the target, according to the report. Okay, we're coming up here on the break. You listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Stand by. Okay, back from break in 4 minutes. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. Stand by. Okay, who still needs to register for the online courses I teach on Saturdays and Sundays? From the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. These are 10-week online courses I teach. We deal with thousands of years of history. And also teach ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. Understand the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Stand by. Back from break in 2 minutes. Back from break in 1 minute. Stand by. Back from break in 1 minute.
Imhotep. On the African History Network show, we deal with current events in history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Unfortunately, many people confuse what racism is. Racism is a power structure. It was laws and policies that put us in this predicament. It's going to be laws and policies that take us out. So when you control the radius of a man or woman's thoughts, you can control the compass of his or her actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know.
We have it all on 910 AM Superstation. 910, the Superstation, Detroit's only African-American talk radio.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Thursday, December 16th, 2021, and we are live. Be sure to visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register for the online courses I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. These are 10-week online classes from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. And we do that Saturdays, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We do this at my online school. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch them anytime. And then also the other class I teach is Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So we deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. I do a PowerPoint presentation. We have video clips, book articles, references, etc. We normally the classes are $130. We have them on sale right now in a bundle pack. You can register for both classes for only $70. As soon as you register, you can watch the classes we did last weekend. You can join us in the class this weekend. All right. And you still have access to the full class even after the class is over with. Okay, so right before the break, we were talking, giving you an update on the story that we found out about that took place in 2019 about Anjanette Young, Chicago woman who was handcuffed naked, receives $2.9 million settlement from Chicago City Council. They voted on Wednesday, December 15th. Check out this piece from the New York Times. Okay, now, I want to go to this next story. Shakita, I just sent you another clip. We're going to go to that clip. Reverend Raphael Warnock. On yesterday's show, I shared a segment of Reverend Raphael Warnock on the Senate floor from Tuesday. And he was calling out both Republicans and Democrats on not changing the filibuster for voting rights, but altering the filibuster for to raise the debt limit. Okay. And I want to go back to that clip here because he really was making sense. And he talked about bipartisanship also. Let's go back to that clip, Shakita. All right, the clip I just sent you, clip 3, Reverend Raphael Warnock at the 4-minute mark. Okay, we're going to go to that in just a sec.
Exceptions made in the past couple of weeks on the filibuster rule. Now, frankly, that the January 6th investigation has revealed so much terrible backstory in terms of how serious the plot was to overthrow the election and to pervert the administration of the election in 2020. Do you sense any movement, any shift among your Democratic colleagues to your way of thinking on this?
We've been having some encouraging conversations. I've been talking to many of my colleagues, including Senator Manchin, and I've been talking to Leader Schumer, others throughout the weekend. And I'm going to continue to make the case because, again, I think this is the most important thing we can do this Congress. We make a terrible error of judgment if we behave as if these are ordinary times. These are no ordinary times. And if we don't do something to protect our democracy, here's my fear, Rachel. I fear that we may well have crossed a Rubicon that will make it difficult for us to get back what we imagine, what we take for granted as a democracy. Democracies don't die all at once. It's a little bit at a time. And anybody who's paying attention right now ought to be concerned. The good news is we have the power to act. We can do something about it. We proved it last week because why? If we didn't act, the economy would be in crisis. And I thought seriously about voting against raising the debt ceiling, but I was thinking about the people back home. I was especially thinking about the most vulnerable members of our community who were not resilient, who would suffer a loss that perhaps is unimaginable if we didn't do the responsible thing. Well, I shudder to think what will happen to our democracy if we don't defend it. We changed the rule last week. We ought to do the same, live up to our duty. You know, politicians make a lot of promises when they're running for office. But the one thing that I swore to do when I put one hand in the air and the other on the Bible, I swore to defend the Constitution. And I'm determined to do that. And I hope that my colleagues will live up to this moment.
Okay. I want to go to the clip I just emailed you. That's also from the Rachel Maddow show. I think let's go to that clip at the 4-minute mark. Okay. So now this is the clip that from Tuesday's show. This is from this is Reverend Raphael Warnock on the Senate floor on Tuesday, and he's talking about, he's calling out both Democrats and Republicans for changing the filibuster to save the economy and raise the debt ceiling, but not changing the filibuster to save democracy. Let's go to the clip.
The colleagues are saying, but what about bipartisanship? Isn't that important? I say, of course it is. But here's the thing we must remember. Slavery was bipartisan. Jim Crow segregation was bipartisan. The refusal of women's suffrage was bipartisan. The denial of the basic dignity of members of the LGBTQ community has long been bipartisan. The 3/5 compromise was the creation of a putative national unity at the expense of Black people's basic humanity. So when colleagues in this chamber talk to me about bipartisanship, which I believe in, I just have to ask, at whose expense? Who is being asked to foot the bill for this bipartisanship? And is liberty itself the cost? I submit that that's a price too high and a bridge too far. To my Democratic colleagues, I say, while it is deeply unfortunate, it is more than apparent that it has been left to us to handle alone the task of safeguarding our democracy. The judgment of history is upon us. Future generations will ask, when the democracy was in a 911 state of emergency, what did you do to put the fire out? Did we rise to the moment, or did we hide behind procedural rules? I believe that we Democrats can figure out how to get this done, even if that requires a change in the rules, which we established just last week that we can do when the issue is important enough. Well, the people of Georgia and across the country saying that voting rights are important enough. I think the voting rights are important enough. Once we handle the debt ceiling, the Senate needs to make voting rights the very next issue we take up. We must do voting rights, and we must deal with this issue now.
Okay, so
Most gladly,
was
Pastor.
okay. You pause right there. Okay, so that was Richard. So that is what happened in the Senate on Tuesday. Okay, Tuesday, December 14th. And read the article here from NBC News. He talked about this yesterday. And senator sees debt limit increase as model to pass voting legislation. The senator they're talking about is Senator Raphael Warnock of Georgia, who you just heard. This piece is from December 14th. Also, Senator Raphael Warnock, Democrat of Georgia, is frustrated that the Senate found a way to pass an increase in the debt limit without any Republican support, but can't use the same mechanism to pass stalled voting legislation. Now, as we talked about on our shows the past couple of days, this goes back to last week when you had 14 Republicans who voted to they voted to break the filibuster to then allow Democrats to then vote with 51 votes to raise the debt limit. The reason why is because Republicans want to, in the 2022 midterm elections, then blame Democrats for raising the debt limit. Okay, even though it's to raise the debt limit to pay for some of the things that Republicans ran up on the uh, corporate credit card, so to speak. So there was a piece from CNN from last week that deals with this. Where is that? Right here. Okay, I gotta find it. Okay, we're coming up on another break. We'll deal with this on the other side of the break. This is the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. Okay, this is the article right here from CNN I was looking for. 14 GOP senators broke a filibuster to advance debt limit fast track process. That's from December 9th. Back from break in 2 minutes. Stand by. Back from break in 1 minute. Stand by. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Thursday, December 16th, 2021. Okay, so right before the break, the article I was trying to find was this one here from CNN. 14 GOP senators, 14 GOP senators broke a filibuster to advance debt limit fast track process. 14 GOP senators.
Miss this year's Dreamforce? You can still.
14 GOP senators broke a filibuster to advance debt limit fast track process. This is from Thursday, December 9th, 2021. Okay, so read that article from CNN. Okay, now I want to go to this clip here. Derek Johnson, from a CEO and president of the NAACP, was part of a meeting of civil rights leaders and some key U.S. senators, key Democratic U.S. senators. Okay. And let's see, we're going to that clip from the last word, Shakita. So this meeting took place on Thursday. It took place on Wednesday, December 15th. And it was organized by Michigan U.S. Senator Gary Peters, who's a Democrat as well. And it is to advance voting rights and to deal with the filibuster and come up with a workaround for the filibuster to get the voting rights bills passed. All right, so Derek Johnson was on the last word. This is clip number 4. He was on the last word with Lawrence O'Donnell from Wednesday, December 15th, after the meeting, and he's talking about what happened at the meeting. Let's go to clip 4, please.
And again, happy holidays.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And joining us now is Derek Johnson, the president and CEO of the NAACP. He met with a group of senators virtually today to discuss the path forward for voting rights. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. John Hickenlooper, one of the senators in that meeting, after the meeting, came out and tweeted basically that there it is, enough, it's time to change the filibuster to protect voting rights. Did you know that Senator Hickenlooper was going to do that after the meeting?
We didn't know he was going to do that. We are glad he did. The NAACP, along with our partners, Urban League and National Action Network, we issued a scorecard. And in that scorecard, we identified 13 members of the Senate who had incomplete. And we have worked aggressively since that point to get those senators to make the necessary commitments to ensure voting right protections was a priority before the end of the year. And so we're glad Senator Hickenlooper made that statement. Senator Bennett came on board in the midst of that meeting. Senator Peters organized the conversation. So we are moving this process forward. There is no more urgent issue before the Senate at this time than voting right protections. And we urge the Senate to ensure that our democracy is protected and to allow voters to fully engage in this democracy.
Does Senator Sinema seem ready to change the Senate rule in order to pass this?
Well, we were encouraged. She was on the phone. She didn't speak, but we were encouraged that she listened in. And it's really important to understand that this is not a partisan activity, and the needle have moved. The rules of 2005 and 2006, we live in a different political climate where individuals are willing to subvert democracy in order to score political points or advance partisan interests. That is anti-democratic, and we cannot be touting democratic principles globally as we did 2 weeks ago if we're not protecting democracy here domestically.
I just want to note for the record in the audience, I've been in an awful lot of meetings with an awful lot of senators in situations like this. I've never heard of a senator not speaking. This was a group of 1, 2, 3, 4, about 6 senators. And to have one of them not speak at all, as you're telling us Senator Sinema did, is a pretty strange piece of Senate behavior. You heard Joe Biden today saying voting rights is now the number one issue. He said that with a clarity that he hasn't had before.
Well, that is a shift from last week. That's a shift from last month. At NAACP and the civil rights community, we are clear. We cannot advance public policy if we're not protecting the right of voters to participate. But more importantly, after the first of the year, legislative bodies will be convening all across the country, but particularly in the South where majority of African Americans live, and they will be considering redistricting plan. This will be the first time since 1960 that we won't have a federal standard to ensure that racial gerrymandering or political gerrymandering is not the primary use or tool used to draw political boundary lines. So we must adopt voting right protections to ensure that voters can elect candidates of their choice and that we can have a true representative democracy.
The Senate is a narrow one-lane road, and any legislation that's on it has to wait for the legislation that's in front of it. Build Back Better has always been in front of voting rights on that road. Is it time to let Build Better pull over to the side and have voting rights pass in front of it?
Let's be clear, maybe a narrow road, but the bridge will collapse if we don't put our priorities in order. Priorities should be just as it was last week when they made exceptions and they lifted the standards in terms of our debt limit. We have to do the same thing for our democracy. The full faith and credit of this country is important. The full faith in our democracy is also important. So there should not be anything in terms of priority, voting rights protections for all American citizens. And that's the work of the NAACP. That's the work of the civil rights community. And this has to be a priority before the end of this calendar year.
President Derek Johnson of the NAACP, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Pause right there. Okay. So that was from The Last Word with Lawrence O'Donnell, MSNBC. They haven't uploaded the clip yet. I had to go into the audio podcast to find that. I wish they make that video available, MSNBC. So check that out, msnbc.com. That's from December 15th, 2021. Now, we're running out of time here on 910 AM Superstation WFDF. Those watching on Facebook and YouTube, keep watching for a few more minutes. One of these stories we're going to get to tomorrow. We'll talk about Jimmy Lee Jackson tomorrow. We're going to squeeze in Claudette Colvin here for a minute. And we'll talk about this some more Sunday. I'll be on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday. So check me out there. We'll post it on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, and my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register for the online courses I teach on Saturdays and Sundays dealing with history. Saturdays, it's from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement and Black Power, 1865 to 1968. And Sundays, it is Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We have a special bundle pack. You can register for both classes for only $70. We do the sessions live. They're all archived and recorded. You can go back and watch it anytime. And if you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization, email me at AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AHNshow@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And if you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App or through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show, or click on the yellow donate button at our website. Right now, it's correct wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace. All right, stand by. Let me clear this call. Okay, very quickly here. Let's continue, and let me pull up the information here for Cash App. This is our official Cash App account. $ the AHN Show through Cash App. When you go to it, it says Michael and it shows my picture there. This is our official Cash App account. Hold on, I gotta get used to this. I just installed Windows 11, and I'm trying to get. Wait, let me pull this back up. Okay, so when you go to it, it says Michael and shows my picture there. These other ones here are fake African History Network Cash App accounts. All right. Yeah, these other ones are fake African History Network Cash App accounts. Okay. So, all right, let's continue. Also read this piece here from the Washington Post from, this is from December 15th. Oh, put the, which they stop saying yesterday as the date. Just put the damn date on there. You get paid enough money to do that. Just lazy. Put the date on there. Actually, yesterday, I think they're referring to, yeah, this was from the 15th. Put the date on there, please. Senate Democrats renew focus on voting rights as domestic policy bill stalls and filibuster changes are considered. Okay, read that from the Washington Post. Okay, now the story here dealing with Claudette Colvin, I've been following this some and heard that she was trying to get the conviction from 1955. She was trying to get that expunged. And there's a piece here from CBS News, and we'll do it some more on Sunday show because we're on for 2 hours on Sunday. Claudette Colvin arrested for not giving up her seat for a white woman in 1955 has record expunged. This is from CBSNews.com. Let me pull this up here. This is from CBSNews.com. Claudette Colvin, arrested for not giving up her seat for a white woman in 1955, has record expunged. Quote, "My name was cleared. I'm no longer a juvenile delinquent at 82, end quote. Now, this piece is from December 16th, 2021. They have a segment on CBS this morning with Gayle King about Claudette Colvin. Now, Claudette Colvin was 15 years old in 1955 when she refused to give up her seat on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama, 9 months before Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat December 1st, 1955. Claudette Colvin was arrested and charged, as many others were also. Now 82 years old, Claudette Colvin filed a petition to have the record expunged, to have the record of the incident wiped clean, and a judge in Montgomery, Alabama has granted the request. CBS Mornings, in an exclusive interview with Claudette Colvin said, "My record was expunged and my name was cleared, and I'm no longer a juvenile delinquent at 82. Now, although she now has a clean record, she said she will be remembered as the girl who on March 2nd, 1955, refused to give up her seat on a crowded city bus." Claudette Colvin said she was with three classmates. And sitting in the section that was allowed for colored people. She was sitting in the section that was allowed for colored people when a white woman boarded and moved to the back of the bus, hoping to take a seat. Now, at that time, Claudette Colvin, hold on, let's see where we go here. At that time, Claudette Colvin explained a black person and a white person could not sit in the same row. She said, quote, "In segregated law, a colored person could not sit across the aisle from a white person," end quote. She said they had to sit behind the white person to show that they were superior and the colored person was inferior. Okay. She said in segregated law, a colored person could not sit across the aisle from a white person. They had to sit behind the white person to show that they were superior. The white person was superior, and the colored person was inferior. Now here's a picture of Claudette Colvin when she was 15 years old. Picture of Claudette Colvin when she was 15. Okay, now the bus driver asked the kids to move, and 3 of the children did, but Claudette Colvin refused to move. She said, quote, I said I could not move because history had me glued to the seat, she recalled. And they say, how was that? I say, well, it felt as though Harriet Tubman's hands were pushing me down on one shoulder and Sojourner Truth's hands was pushing me down on the other shoulder. She said it felt as though Harriet Tubman's hands were pushing her down on one shoulder and Sojourner Truth was pushing her down on the other shoulder. Now, the driver flagged down a traffic patrolman, and she said, and he asked me why I was sitting there, and I was even more defiant. I said, quote, I paid my fare, and it's my constitutional rights. She said, I paid my fare, and it's my constitutional rights. That'd be the 14th Amendment. A few stops later, another officer boarded the bus and manhandled her to get her off of it. She said she spent only a few hours in the local jail, but she still has nightmares of her cell's mattressless cot. It was a cot without a mattress, and the noise the door made as it clanged shut. She faced 3 charges. Those for disturbing the peace and breaking segregation law were dropped. She faced 3 charges. Those for disturbing the peace and breaking segregation law were dropped, but the charge for assaulting a police officer had stayed with her for more than 60 years. The charge for assaulting a police officer has stayed with her for more than 60 years. Claudette Colvin said, quote, they said I clawed the policeman and I kicked the police. I didn't do all of that, she said. Now, after the incident, she continued to fight for civil rights and was one of the 4 plaintiffs who successfully ended bus segregation in Alabama in the landmark U.S. Supreme Court case of Browder versus Gale, the November 1956 Supreme Court decision. Then it was appealed, and then the final verdict was December 1956. Attorney Fred Gray was the attorney, and he was her attorney. Fred Gray was the attorney who he filed the lawsuit February 1st, 1956. Attorney Fred Gray, who's still alive, and Roland Martin just interviewed him. Legendary civil rights attorney Fred Gray was the attorney who filed the lawsuit against the federal government for the survivors and the descendants of the Tuskegee experiment of untreated syphilis in the Negro male. It was about 1974 the lawsuit was filed. Now, attorney Fred Gray, portrayed by Cuba Gooding Jr., Cuba Gooding Jr. in the film Selma, went on to defend Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks. Claudette Colvin moved to New York, where she worked as a nurse's aide for decades and became a mom. On Friday, the man who expunged her record, Judge Calvin Williams, flew to Texas from Montgomery, Alabama to surprise her. It was the first time the two met face to face. Okay. And there's a picture of his African-American judge. Judge Calvin Williams. Okay. Judge Calvin Williams. It was the first time the two met face to face. Judge Calvin Williams said, I want to, on behalf of myself and all the judges in Montgomery, offer my apology for the injustice that was perpetrated upon you. Judge Williams told Claudette Colvin. Now, Claudette Colvin said her cleared record was important to her for the message it would send to her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. She said, quote, because when they go out into the world, the struggle of being African American is still going on. She said, so I want my grandchildren to know that their grandmother stood up for something when she realized that she was an American at a very early age. Okay, she said, so I want my grandchildren to know that their grandmother stood up for something when she realized that she was an American at a very early age and she wanted equal rights, just as those other students and all the other bus and all of the other bus audience and all of the other people in Montgomery. That's what I want my grandchildren to know, end quote. Okay, so check out this piece here from CBS News. We'll talk about this some more on Sunday. We'll play the interview on Sunday. Claudette Colvin arrested for not giving up her seat for a white woman in 1955 has record expunged. Quote, my name was cleared. I'm no longer a juvenile delinquent at 82. Okay, so that's some good news there. Today is Jimmy Lee Jackson's birthday. And Jimmy Lee Jackson was partially the inspiration for the Selma to Montgomery March. We'll deal with this. We'll talk about this some more Sunday, but we'll just look at this very quickly here. I posted about it on my Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep also. So Jimmy Lee Jackson was born in 1938, December 16th, 1938, in Marion, Alabama. We know that he was shot in February 1965 at a civil rights protest. It was actually protesting the killing of it was protesting the arrest of James Orange, who was a field secretary for SCLC. And let me go to the article that we posted. All right. Okay, hold on. Where is that? Okay, there's a piece from, so I posted a piece from the Facebook page Black American about Jimmy Lee Jackson. Today is his birthday, but there's also a an article from biography.com on Jimmy Lee Jackson as well. So Jimmy Lee Jackson was shot and killed by an Alabama state trooper in 1965. His death inspired the civil rights demonstration that led to the Voting Rights Act. And here's a picture of Jimmy Lee Jackson here. Okay, so he's born December 16th, 1938. He died February 26, 1965. A few days after he was shot and killed by, a few days after he was shot by Alabama state trooper James Bernard Fowler. Now, Jimmy Lee Jackson became part of the civil rights movement as a young man. After participating in a peaceful protest in Alabama in February 1965, he was shot by a state trooper. He died a few days later. His death inspired the Voting Rights March. The violence at that protest, known as Bloody Sunday, March 7th, 1965, made more Americans favor civil rights and made it possible to pass the 1965 Voting Rights Act. So Jimmy Lee Jackson was born December 16, 1938. in Marion, Alabama, a small town located near Selma. After fighting in the Vietnam War and spending time in Indiana, he returned to his hometown of Marion, Alabama. There he made about $6 a day as a laborer and woodcutter. So he was a deacon of his church. He was the youngest deacon at his Baptist church, and he fathered a daughter. Inspired by the civil rights movement, he also tried to vote for the first time in his life. Inspired by the civil rights movement, Jimmy Lee Jackson tried to vote for the first time in his life. He made several attempts to register as a voter, but never got past the many hurdles that have been set up to keep African Americans from casting ballots. And these are the poll taxes, the literacy test, things like this, the obstacles that white supremacists put in the way of African Americans being able to vote, okay, in these southern states. And there's a piece from the root.com that deals with 5 things you should know about Selma, 5 things you should know about Selma, and it deals with the Selma to Montgomery March. And one of the things it talks about here is that the Selma movement helped give birth to the Black Panther Party. Okay, at the end of the Selma to Montgomery March, 23-year-old SNCC activist Stokely Carmichael decided to head to Lowndes County, Alabama, where 80% of the population was African American in Lowndes County, Alabama, Lowndes, but where 0 African Americans were registered voters. And Stokely Carmichael headed there to build a new political party. He formed the Lowndes County Freedom Organization, which used the Black Panther as its symbol. Okay, the Lowndes County Freedom Organization used the Black Panther as its symbol. This is before the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense is founded. They're not founded until October 1966. Okay, in October 1966, Stokely Carmichael, who was now head of SNCC, and because he won the chairmanship, okay, from John Lewis in SNCC, and it caused the rift in SNCC. There was a rift already developing, but it furthered the rift, and a lot of them going to leave. John Lewis leaves SNCC, a lot of other ones, Diane Nash, Bernard Lafayette. SNCC adopted a Black Power stature in ideology, rightfully so. Black Power, the Black Power movement comes out of SNCC, okay? And Black Power was the next logical step of the civil rights movement. So Stokely Carmichael formed the Lowndes County Freedom Organization. And let me see. Let's see. What can we pull up here? And their symbol was a Black Panther. Because when you have a political party, all political parties have a symbol. And you especially needed a symbol when you're dealing with some people who, are illiterate. You definitely want a symbol. So let's see here. Let's try this again. I'm trying to pull this picture up. So this is Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture, and Dr. King. All right, now The Lowndes County Freedom Organization used the Black Panther as their symbol. Now, in October 1966, Stokely Carmichael Kwame Ture, who's now head of SNCC and a leading voice of the Black Power movement, was a keynote speaker at a conference in Berkeley, California. In attendance were Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, who would adopt the Black Panther logo of the Lowndes County Freedom Organization for their new organization they were forming in Oakland, California, called the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. And they got permission to use the Black Panther as their symbol. They got permission from the Lowndes County Freedom Organization to use the Black Panther as their symbol. There's an article here from The Root, and we'll talk more about this on Sunday's show because I have 2 hours on Sunday. We're on at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday. Okay, so check out this piece here from The Root. I'm not a big fan of The Root, but they do have some good articles every now and then that are good. Okay, this piece here from theroot.com. Five things you should know about Selma. 5 things you should know about Selma. Okay, and this deals with Selma. It talks a little bit about the movie Selma, but it deals with the Selma to Montgomery March. Okay, and number 5, the Selma movement helped to give birth to the Black Panther Party. Okay, so check this out. All right, now let's see here. Where are we? Okay, so read the rest of this here about Jimmy Lee Jackson. We'll talk more about this on Sunday's show. He was shot February 18th, 1965. Now, he was shot trying to defend and protect his mother and his grandfather. It was at a protest over the arrest of James Orange. And even nonviolent demonstrations were opposed by segregationists who held power in Alabama. And that night, the town's streetlights were turned off under the cover of darkness. Police and state troopers attacked the protesters with billy clubs, sending them fleeing in different directions. Still pursued by officers, Jimmy Lee Jackson and other demonstrators went into a restaurant. They went into Max Cafe. Jimmy Lee Jackson was shot in the stomach at Max Cafe by Alabama State Trooper James Bernard Fowler. Okay. Witnesses recounted that Jimmy Lee Jackson had been protecting his mother and his 82-year-old grandfather from the state troopers when he was shot. State Trooper James Bernard Fowler, who did not admit to the killing until an interview in 2005 with the Anniston Star, claimed he had been acting in self-defense and was trying to keep Jimmy Lee Jackson from grabbing his gun. Okay. Fowler said, quote, "I don't remember how many times I pulled the trigger, but I think I just pulled once, but I might have pulled it 3 times. He said, I don't remember. Okay, he said, I don't remember. He said, I didn't know his name at the time, but his name was Jimmy Lee Jackson. He weren't dead. He didn't die that night, but I heard about a month later he died. So he died a few days later on February 26, 1965. Now, so Dr. King spoke at Jimmy Lee Jackson's funeral. James Fowler's conviction. James Fowler, the state trooper who confessed to the killing of Jimmy Lee Jackson, did not face immediate repercussions following the fatal shooting. It wasn't until the year 2007, 42 years after Jimmy Lee Jackson's death, that former state trooper James Fowler was arrested and charged with first and second degree murder. Fowler initially maintained that he acted to defend himself, but eventually accepted a plea bargain for misdemeanor manslaughter. Okay, he received a 6-month jail sentence, but served only 5 months and was released in July 2011 because of health problems. In 2011, the FBI began investigating James Fowler's role in the 1966 death of Nathan Johnson, another African-American man who Alabama State Trooper James Fowler had fatally shot after he stopped Nathan Johnson for suspicion of drunk driving. Now, James Bernard Fowler died of pancreatic cancer on July 5th, 2015, at the age of 81. Okay, so read more about Jimmy Lee Jackson here at biography.com. This piece here is on Jimmy Lee Jackson, whose death helped inspire the Selma to Montgomery March. And that's a march for voting rights. But initially the march was going to be to take the casket of Jimmy Lee Jackson and drop it at the door of the state capitol. All right. If you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App. Also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show, paypal.me/the AHN Show, and at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We're 6 days a week. This helps us keep doing the research and stay on the air and keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills, etc. When you go to our Cash App account, $ the AHN Show, SHOW, it says Michael, and shows my picture there. These other ones here are fake African History Network Cash App accounts. African American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Email us at ahnshow@africanhistorynetwork.com, ahnshow@africanhistorynetwork.com. Our current promotion is buy 1 month, get 2 months free. We take your 30-second, 60-second commercial and we put it into the, when we rebroadcast these shows, we put your commercial into the rebroadcast of these shows, but also it will be in the audio podcast of our shows as well. We're on 10 different audio podcast platforms, including iHeartRadio, CastBox, FM Player, TuneIn. So email us at ahnshow@africanhistorynetwork.com. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. All right, we have to get out of here. Remember, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you next time. Peace. African Spirit Cards specialize in the design and printing of high-quality African-centered note cards and stationery. African Spirit Cards breeds and rejoices in the African and African-American experiences. They honor our African heritage in all that they do for you by proudly displaying the great motifs and ornamentations of the African world diaspora. They use African images, African proverbs, and many African languages to fully immerse their clients in the wisdom and history of and the connection to Africa. They understand the importance of having images around us that reflect who we are. These images also illustrate where we came from and what we desire to be. They are here to serve you. Follow them on Instagram at African Spirit Cards, that's African with a K. They have a wide selection. Check out their holiday selection at Etsy etsy.com/shop/African Spirit Cards. That's Etsy, ETSY. You can give them a call at 313-995-3579, 313-995-3579. You can email them at janeldesigns@africanspiritcards.com. That's JANAL designs@africanspiritcards.com and place your order today.
Health and well-being have long been a taboo subject in the so-called African American community. So I enlisted the help of mental health experts, thought leaders, and activists to help kill the ghost of Willie Lynch and heal from post-traumatic slave syndrome.
We experience trauma a lot of times on a subconscious level. So sometimes something happens to us and we know that it's traumatizing, but we don't really recognize the extent of the trauma.
Kwanzaa is coming, and the TheAHNShow.com has all of your Kwanzaa needs. Order your Kwanzaa set today, which includes a kinara, candles, a mat, a cup, the African American flag, and a basket. Visit TheAHNShow.com, TheAHNShow.com. They have kinara sets, which include a candle holder, candles, a mat, and a cup. Kwanzaa is December 26th through January the 1st. Add the early bird discount code for 10% off your order placed before November 28th. Visit TheAHNShow.com and place your order today. TheAHNShow.com has all of your Kwanzaa needs to celebrate this African American Pan-African holiday. TheAHNShow.com.
Black on Purpose Television Network. Yes, Black on Purpose Television Network. All black, all positive, all the time. The largest black-owned streaming television network in the world. Bringing our people together worldwide. Controlling our messages, our story, our way. Black TV the way it should be. Black music, Black history, and more. 30 plus channels, thousands of shows. Black on Purpose Television Network. Subscribe now.
Soul in Motion, celebrating 38 years in the arts. This energetic ensemble of dancers and drummers was started by percussionist Michael Friend and is led by choreographer Associate Director Pam Lassiter. Based in the Washington, D.C. area, Soul in Motion is now accepting bookings for Black History Month, Juneteenth, and summer festivals in 2022. Soul in Motion is also available for more intimate events like naming ceremonies and weddings. To find out more or to book your date, call 240-452-1349 or send an email to info@soulinmotion.org. Be sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Soul in Motion, celebrating our history, our culture, our future. Soul in Motion. Theater, African dance, and drumming since 1984.